by far the biggest production of Disney, and I would almost say it's one of the biggest productions of musical theatre in the world. It's big. I've done this for 20 years. I've been doing shows just over 20 years now, and it's by far the biggest show that I've ever worked on. Scale, it's sort of like nothing you've ever seen before.
I'm sure everyone's excited, and we'll find out on July 21st just how big it is.
Yeah.
Looking forward. Okay, what are the challenges of adapting the classic animation from screen to stage? What stays and what has changed for this live musical?
Everything that you'd know from the film is on stage. I feel like some of those moments, like the carpet, has just been amplified, and what the audience actually get to see and experience in that moment. I mean, I've never had the joy of actually riding the carpet like these two, but what I have had is being in the auditorium and watching the audience's reaction to that. And you know, the show speaks to so many age groups. It's, you know, kids to grandparents, and just the look on their faces when that carpet happens. But also, you know, you've got these ginormous production numbers, and it ticks every box that you would want in a musical theatre piece.
No, it's great. I think this is the perfect vehicle for, I think, the die-hard Aladdin fan, because I know there's the original 5 songs from the movie are actually in this production, then there's 4 new songs, and then there's 3 that actually were written for the original piece for the actual movie that are also in this, including your song that you just sang right there too. So it's exciting. You have a total of 5 plus 4 plus 2. That's 12 songs. Fantastic.
And it's really hard to work out which ones weren't in the film. Like there's moments where I'm like, oh, that wasn't the film, and then I'm like, actually, no, it wasn't. It just, they all fit seamlessly.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Exciting. Okay. I see Aladdin. It looks like a very sparkly experience. I'm, of course, talking about the crystals. So I want to ask you, how much did the crystals cost in total? You know, we got to know how much it costs. And what were they used for? And can you possibly elaborate on the different kinds of fabrics and beads, where they're from, and how were they sourced or decided on? Because these costumes are just beautiful.
Yeah, it costs a lot. It costs a lot, and you know, and you will see that. So some of the numbers, there are 1,225 different fabrics used in our wardrobe. We have over 337 costumes on stage. There's 712 different types of beads on stage. There is 500,000 Swarovski crystals on stage every performance. I think Garrett spoke about A Friend Like Me. There's a tap section of that. Those pants alone have just over 1,200 Swarovski crystals just on the pants that the boys wear on stage. And some of them do drop off. And we do go around and pick them up, and that's, you know, ready for our retirement. What else is there? All the wigs on stage are human hair wigs. There's over 150 custom pairs of shoes made for the show. It's big, it's glitzy, it's glamorous, and there's a huge wow factor when you see it.
It's simply magical. I'm sure we all can't wait. All right, I need to ask you, the toughest moment in the musical to choreograph stage, and why? What was the toughest moment?
As choreographer.
Well, look, I think when we put the show together, you know, 2.5 years ago now in Australia, the most challenging thing, just because of the scale of it, was probably Friend Like Me. You have a production number that goes for, I think it's just over 14 minutes from the start to the very end of it. That's a long time in theatre for a number to go. And so, you know, I mean, we spent days putting that together and working out, you know, how it all kind of came together. And then now when you sort of look back on that, you were like, you know, that took us 3 days to create that number in technical rehearsals, and now it's like that, it's done, and it seems so simple. But that was a big challenge for the cast, also for the genie, but also for the crew putting the show together, because it is busy. Like, the show that happens backstage on Aladdin is another show. If we could have audience sit in the wings and watch what happens, that would be really impressive. The show, also just getting the show physically ready for an audience is huge. We have, it's, you know, I've talked about the scale and the size of it, but it's also heavy. We have, directly above us in this live gallery here, we're going to be putting 40-ton worth of scenery when we arrive. There's another 60-ton of scenic elements on stage, and then there's another 100-ton that we're shipping over, which is costumes and props. So all up, the show weighs just over 200-ton, which is ginormous, and that will equate to around about 30 shipping containers when it comes here. So it's big.
It's a big wow. Well, thank you very much, Matthew. My next question, of course, is for Graham and Shubhri. The A Whole New World sequence is so well known and has been ingrained in popular culture as an iconic romantic moment. How do you bring a freshness to the sequence for audiences each time you two perform it?
I think working off each other is always, there's something different than someone's giving every night, and working off the audience's reaction. It's so beautiful every night to hear, like, when the carpet comes up, a gasp from the audience. It's really magical, and you work off that, you feed off that, and it's really nice energy.
Yeah, it's nice to feel that from the audience. You always hear,
I heard it earlier here. Once you start, oh, I know that song.
and it's that feeling that we just felt then. It's that excitement and butterflies, and many people that have watched the film back in 1992 and over the last 20 years are feeling those emotions again. And so for us to share that every night is important for us to keep it fresh, and it's important for us to just stay connected. Make sure that we sort out our arguments before we go on stage, and
Getting character before that.
share the love.
No, it's great. It's truly a timeless classic, I think, which transcends time. And I think every time you hear it, it just kind of brings you back to that magical world that you're going to be sharing with us, everyone here in Singapore. Graham, well done. Okay, next question I have for you is Aladdin's acrobatic skills, his parkour skills are key to the character. What was it like learning the choreography for this role?
It was a cool experience for me. I'm a very what am I trying to say? I'm very
Energetic. Don't be modest. Just let us have it.
energetic, and so I kind of fell into that quite easily. And I share similar characteristics to Aladdin. Very cheeky and got a big heart. And so when I found out that I'll be jumping over buildings and jumping off and landing on things, it was exciting for me. And I saw it as a challenge, and but also it's ensuring that I make sure that I'm safe at all times. It is pretty fun, but I've got to make sure that I'm not endangering other people, and but you have to make him look.
It's all about style. It's all about style points. You're leaping over tall buildings, and you got to make sure you don't get injured too, because we really need you for the entire run. Great. Shubhri, I have a question for you too. In your career as a performer, have you had a moment like Jasmine where you felt your eyes were opened and you started seeing things in a new way? What was that turning point like for you?
I think I talked a little bit about this when, just before we sung. I graduated in 2017, and I never thought I'd have such an opportunity to perform. Like, something as big as this show, or a role that was so close to my heart, and that really opened my eyes to the possibilities and things that were, possible. Yeah.
Your first role, and she's Jasmine. Like, what are you doing?
I know, yeah. So, hey, I'm sure you more than well deserved it. I'm sure you're doing a fantastic job too. Gareth, your turn. James Monroe Englehart, who originated the role on Broadway, plays a genie as kind of a lounge singer. His portrayal was in turn adapted from Robin Williams' version in the film. How did you build atop these two iconic performances of the same character to create your own interpretation of the iconic genie?
Let's just remember that. No, I was lucky enough to go to New York just before I took over the role, not last year, the year before now. And I met James, so I kind of got to talk about how he created the role, and also I met Alan Menken as well, who created all the music and and everything for this, and a lot of my childhood, nostalgia, I suppose you can call it. And talking to them, they kind of had this idea that he was this 30s and 40s kind of lounge singer, very Cab Calloway, very, so knowing that and then seeing what Robin Williams did with all of the acting side of things, it kind of it's like a giant, Jenga kind of tower that you put together. But doing that and then being told that I'm allowed to throw my own on top of that is just so exciting to do every night. There's a few people that have come back and said, it's not the same. I was like, no, I don't do anything the same every night. Like, I purposefully try and make it different so that when people come back and see it, because there are people that, they fall in love with it once they see it, they see something new every night. So that keeps it fresh for me as well, which is just really exciting.
That's great. Yeah, keep it fresh, keep it new, so they keep on coming back and see a new reiteration of your Genie.
Definitely. I'm very. There's a lot of split personalities inside this head.
Let's find out how many there are. All right, this is a question for all of you, so anyone can just answer it. You've played the characters many times over the years. Are there any particular parts that you just still get really excited over? And don't say all of them, okay? I need one specific part. Really excited.
I think for me, it's the opening of the show. I'm lucky enough to welcome everyone to the world of Agrabah, and sort of begin the story and sort of prepare everyone for that journey we're about to take them on for the sort of next 3 hours that the show happens. So watching that first curtain reveal and the reaction we get from the audience to see Agrabah is so wonderful. Like sometimes I'm turning around, I'm like, oh wow. And I go, wait, the audience is in front of me, I've got to turn back, you know. I forget, I get so awestruck by just how amazing, you know, our show is. So it's really wonderful.
I'm sure we all can't wait. Once the curtains opens up, we see this huge, I think, visual, spectacle for us to just be absorbed into, to be transported into too. So I think we all can't wait for that. Okay, how do you all keep the characters and the story fresh after doing it for so long? How do you keep it exciting, fresh? Is there anything you do specifically at all to kind of keep it new and kind of fresh?
I mentioned it before when I had the chance to speak, but we have resident choreographers and directors on hand, so they watch between 6 to 8 shows a week. They almost watch every show, and you know, so they're just making sure that the show's running smoothly, and it's really nice. I always let you kind of play with different things too, and delivering your lines different or whatever your intention is, and it's really nice as an actor to be able to sit down and discuss those things. Oh, I kind of feel like he's on this journey at the moment, or this made sense to me, and so you talk about those things when you workshop them. Sometimes they don't work, so it's important for us to just keep working on those things, otherwise it will get stale.
That's the beauty, I think, about theater in general, because you're always kind of working in unison with the audience, right? Kind of feeding off of them, they're feeding off of you, seeing how they respond to it too. So I'm sure all the ages will be very excited when they're feeding off of you or vice versa. You know,
It would, I mean, for Garrett, that's with the whole fourth wall, you know, like there's no war there between Garrett with the Genie and the audience, so he really is engaging the audience and fully taking over you. But you know, like that's
one of my